So, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that. Busy looking for my notes. The Asa Briggs lecture is presented at every Pan Commonwealth Forum. At each of these events, we celebrate the founding chairman of the Board of Governors of COL and distinguished British historian, the late Right Honourable Lord Briggs of Lewis, who was an instrumental force in the establishment of the Commonwealth of Learning and an eminent member of the Open University. We are delighted this year to welcome Professor Elifas Tozo Bisanda, who will speak to us about the changing landscape of open and distance learning in Africa through technology. Professor Bisanda has a deep expertise in distance education, particularly in an African context, and is a strong champion of open and online education. He served as the Vice Chancellor of the Open University of Tanzania from 2015 to 2025, just last June, and held several Deputy Vice Chancellor roles at OUT for 8 years before his term as the VC. Prior to joining OUT, he worked at the University of Dar es Salaam for 20 years, 3 years at the University of Namibia, and 4 at the Kigali Institute of Science and Technology. He's a material scientist and engineer by training, with a PhD in material science from the University of Bath in the UK, an MSc in metallurgical engineering from Cranfield, and a BSc in mechanical engineering from the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. He has served on the boards of the Association of African Universities, the African Council for Distance Education, the Distance Education Association of Southern Africa, and the Southern Africa Regional Universities Association. Professor Bisanda is currently a member of the Executive Board of the Distance, Open and E-Learning Practitioners of East Africa. He's the chairman of the UNESCO National Commission of Tanzania and holds a UNESCO Chair of Curriculum and Teacher Education at the Open University of Tanzania. I hope you will give a warm welcome to Professor Bisanda.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Oh, is it evening yet? Thank you so much, Professor Scott, for that introduction. I'm so delighted, but I want to commend the hosts, the Botswana Open University, for a very well-organized conference. I think we are all enjoying it. And I greatly appreciate the honor accorded to me by COL under the leadership of Professor Scott for having me to give this very prestigious lecture, the Asa Briggs lecture. I'm told I'm the first African to give such a lecture since the PCF started. So that's a great honor. When I was thinking about this topic, the changing landscape of open and distance learning, it came to my mind that the whole landscape of learning has actually changed. About 10 years ago, my daughter, who is now studying medicine, she was still very young, maybe in her grade 3 or 4, and she was insisting to come and sit on my lap and work on my laptop. And I was telling her, no, I have very serious work I'm doing here. You go to a mother or whatever. But she refused. Eventually, I asked her to bring her math book so that I can give her an assignment. So she brought her exercise book, and I gave her very difficult questions to add, to subtract, some of them to multiply. She was still at very early age of earning, but I thought it will keep her busy for some while. And when she went, within 10 minutes, she was back. And all the answers, all the questions were correctly answered. So I asked her, how did you manage? Were you able to do this so quickly? She said, I used my mom's phone. Here I was, facing a 21st century kid with 20th century methods that don't work. And in my own experience, I've had the time with the vice chancellors of other universities in East Africa. And one day I gave them a question which none of them was able to answer. I told them about my learning experience in engineering. I did engineering in the 70s and 80s. And that time, we were using a slide rule to do computation. I don't know if anybody knows the slide rule. You'll probably find it in a museum or somewhere. And if you are caught with a calculator, you are expelled. So if they find you with a calculator, you are expelled. Nowadays, when you find a student with a mobile phone exam, we expel them. And I asked them a very simple question. I said, I did engineering at the time when there were no calculators and no computers. There was only one computer at the University of Dar es Salaam, which has a memory of 16K. Those who understand memory, they understand what I mean. 16K, not 16 gigabyte or megabyte or byte. Okay, bytes. And to go into the computer room, you had to take off your shoes. It's like you are going to a theater. And we never had access to it. Very rarely could we go there. The library had books, yes, but most of them were a single copy. So if you are supposed to look for a book, you go there to the catalog desk, you ask, I need a certain book. They go and get it, go to the catalog, then it tells you which location the book is. You walk to the location only to find a note written, you can reserve, it is gone, you can reserve it until next week. And since I was doing engineering, we had a compulsory subject of engineering drawing. It took up most of our time, maybe 50% of our time, we're in the drawing room. And when you are drawing, after you start by drawing in pencil, and then you have to trace in ink. If your ink fails on the drawing, it means you have to throw it and start all over again. So we used to spend sleepless nights in the drawing office. And my degree took 4 years. Now I ask the VCs, the students we have today, they draw using computers. If they make a mistake, they simply type undo. It disappears. And if they have a symmetrical object, they will not draw half of it. They put a line of symmetry. They say mirror, the other part flips over in a split of a second. Okay? If a civil engineer is drawing a 20-story buildings where all the floors are similar, like most of our hotels, they are the same all floors, then you just draw one floor, and you say duplicate 20 times, you have 20 floors. In our time, you had to draw and label each floor. If they don't even go to the library is on their mobile phone. They just go on Google, now they go to ChatGPT or wherever, they get whatever they want in a split of a second. I ask the question, why are these students still learning for 4 years? And ask yourself, I know you are in a similar situation. The landscape of teaching and learning has changed, but the people who are in power, who are policymakers, who are regulators, they haven't changed. And I liked what the VC of Botswana Open University said about the regulators. In my university, Open University of Tanzania, we have it's right, written on prospectus and everywhere that a bachelor degree of law takes 3 years. But some students are graduating after 2 years. So the regulator called me and asked me, why are your students graduating in 2 years instead of 3 years? And cleverly, I asked him that, is it 3 years or 6 semesters? So he committed himself to say it is 6 semesters. I said, look, our students, most of them, I call them second chance learners, they are in a hurry to finish. And they don't have to rest between July and December waiting for the next academic year. So when they finish one academic year in June, immediately they embark on a 3rd semester, so that every year they do 3 semesters. So how many years do they need to finish the degree of law? And that fixed it. So I'm talking about the changing landscape of open and distance learning. But I think we need to understand that the landscape for learning has also changed. I don't know whether you see the screen. I'm not able to move the screen. Is it here? Yeah. Okay, the contents of my lecture, I'm going to talk mostly about learning modes, the power of learning, role of internet in education. I'm also going to talk about how ICT has impacted education. I focus a little bit on internet data. And finally, I talk about our experiences at Open University of Tanzania and what do we expect of learners of 2050. That will be then my conclusion. Technology here actually means ICT, basically, although technology carries many other things. For ICT, we are talking of software and hardware, and also we're talking about the modes of delivery which have changed. We are also talking about Africa in the context that we are very slow, often we are very slow in adopting technologies into our systems. However, there is great hope that the challenges of digital learning and teaching will probably be overcome soon. I like the statement that is written, has been quoted several times regarding face-to-face lectures. I see I think very deeply about what is happening now in our schools, in our lecture rooms, where you see someone standing and talking and sweating for 1 hour or 2 hours, but is not aware that the audience is not with him. Even me, as I'm talking now, I know some people are not here. They're somewhere in the US or in Canada, or they are already somewhere in South Africa or North Africa or West Africa. You can be here physically, but not here spiritually. And I want you to just decide where you want to be yourself. If you want to be here, stay here. People have nowadays got a strange opinion that everything should be taught by lectures. Now I cannot see how lectures can do as much good as reading the books from which lectures were taken. Lectures were once useful, but now when all can read and books are so numerous, lectures are unnecessary. I tried to put this statement to one of my colleagues who teaches at the University of Dar es Salaam, and he looked at me in amazement. He was amazed. I told him, look, where do you get the materials that you teach? You get them from the internet? Why can't the students go and draw them themselves there? Why do you have to tell them? And that's why when I tried to teach a course at that university, and most students, I realized that we are not attentive. So I changed my method of teaching. I would come to the class, and I brought in a Wi-Fi router that can give every student can give him their Wi-Fi. And I told everybody to bring their smartphone in the classroom. So when I started, I just wrote 2 words on the blackboard. And then I asked each one of them to search whatever they can find about that topic, that word. And then I started going from one student to the other, telling me what they found. At the end of that lecture, it was me who was taught, not them. And none of them was chatting with their friends because they don't know when they're going to be called next to say what they found. So see, the method of teaching have to change. We are so scared of AI because we don't want to change. Who is afraid of AI? It's not the students, it's the lecturers. Because they want to teach the way they were taught. They want to teach the way they were taught. They want to ask questions that they were also asked when they were students, which somebody can quickly get the answer by ChatGPT. That's why we have to change even the way we examine our students, the way we teach. We have to change. When we ask questions that can be easily replicated by AI, then it's no longer an exact question. The first learning mode has been common, but distance learning is also been there for quite a while. Online learning, new, fairly new, but blending or hybrid learning, which is a combination of face-to-face and online learning, is getting more and more popular and more useful because it can be accessed asynchronously, but also at the convenience of the teacher and the student. E-learning is very powerful. E-learning encompasses electronic methods of learning, from using a floppy disk or a CD-ROM or whatever hard drive you have to bring electronically to internet-based teaching. So E everywhere, because you can access it everywhere. E for everyone. Everyone is free. As long as you get connected, you have it. Every time, effective, efficient, economical. Economical. Now, governments have stopped funding most of our higher education institutions, or they have reduced funding. We have to find new ways of coping. When I was appointed DVC academic of the Open University of Tanzania in 2009, I was responsible for all academic delivery, including printing books for our distance students. We are spreading books all over the country. Some students were out the country. We have to send them books. Whenever I try to go to a printer to get them to take an order to print, they refuse. They say, you still haven't paid last year's debt. So I was unable to print any new books. It came to my mind that we should go digital. So I told the Vice Chancellor, late Professor Tolim Bete, that let's go with digital. He asked, but the students don't have computers. Say, look, if we are supposed to cross a river, and you say you cannot swim, okay, try to swim, either drown, or if you want, cross. So I was so rude. You have to cross because there is an enemy coming after you, maybe a lion or whatever. You have to cross the river. You have to swim or else drown. Either way, you're going to die. So from 2011, we stopped printing books. And we took all the content, put it electronically, put it on CD-ROMs, and Professor Mbwete was shocked because the bill for distributing materials reduced considerably. One CD-ROM, which is costing only $1, I could put all the books for the entire course. The entire course needed about 20 books. So 20 books, each one was about $20. So that's $400. From $400 per student to $1 per student. And then our eyes were opened. From 2011, all our board meetings, our Senate meetings, everything was circulated electronically. And we cut down most of the costs. So e-learning, very powerful. But what is the next century, or rather, yes, this century learner looking for? Not next century, this century, what are they looking for? First of all, they are looking for freedom of learning. Freedom. No fixed timetable that commits them. No fixed timetable for exams or for whatever, or for the classroom. They're also looking for a system that is easy, very easy to scale, change, and which will accommodate diverse learners. They're also looking for affordable education because there are now more learners. The government cannot support all the learners. So some learners must learn by their own at their own expense, and it should be affordable. They are also looking for self-paced learning. Self-paced. I always call distance education or open learning, I liken it to a marathon race. When you are in a marathon race, you have all to start at the same time, but you don't have to finish at the same time. In fact, the first runner wins the gold medal, and the second one gets the silver. The third will probably get whatever it is, bronze, but the others will get certificate for completing the race. And we give a certificate for everybody who completes the race. That's it. And that's why we always give space. You are registering for this particular award. It will take you from 3 years to 8 years. But sometimes you get a learner who finishes at the end of 8 years, he still has some credits to finish. They come back and say, please allow us to continue. We are saying, okay, continue for another year or two. In 1 year, one graduation ceremony, I graduated a student who had spent 15 years on a bachelor degree. 15 years. He was a professional student, I think. Some people like to be called students, so they want to go slow. But what I also want to emphasize is that the education that we are providing must be that which is relevant, which meets the needs of the society, like the earlier lecture in the morning. The industry, sometimes they want something, they want to receive candidates who can straight on go on the job. But the industry is also very slow, particularly in Africa, is very slow in supporting education institutions. If they acquire new machines for their industry, the universities are still teaching using very old technologies. So the industry is supposed to bring new machines to the universities to assist them to bring out candidates who can cope with current technologies. Now, the role of internet, I cannot overstate it because we are all here familiar with what I'm saying. But I want to simply say that the internet offers instant information to us. It offers instant information. It makes life so easy when you are doing research. I remember when I was doing my PhD in the UK, the British Council used to help me to get printouts of papers from various places in the world. They used to have that system. And I still have some of those papers. They would come by post. I don't know how long I waited for those papers. But now you get information instantly. The internet can support personalized learning, so that you don't have to be with a group of others or the teacher around. You can yourself enhance your learning without external support. And I think this is what is making the kids of today so fascinated with their mobile phones, because they get everything. I bought my daughter a laptop, but she sold it and bought a very high-profile mobile phone, because it can double, can do anything, whatever she wanted to do on the computer. She can do it on the mobile phone. But I think, interestingly, for today, virtual reality will probably dominate teaching and learning in the future, because you can easily simulate practical experiments without killing anyone or killing any animal. You can see the heart without taking it out of somebody's body, see it kicking. You can do a lot of things. You can watch, you can simulate, and with AI, you can actually create videos for teaching without much effort, without calling a nice photographer, whatever. They're saying that AI is going to cost many people their jobs, because you will be able to do most of the things yourself without relying on outsourcing or to other people. I'm now looking at the global internet usage. I don't know if you see that clearly, but you can see how North America and Europe are shining with a lot of reds. That's where the internet is most being used. And where is Africa? Can you see anything in Africa? Very small, very faint. Southern Africa, probably Botswana, South Africa, maybe Namibia. These countries, North Africa also, we have a little bit of light. But most of Africa is still dark. And that is very worrying. Okay, we have internet, yes, but it's very slow. At one point, I attended a conference in Coventry, UK, and I was given to stay in a student residence, just a student's room. So when I got in there with my laptop and I connected to the internet, I tried to download some videos. Everything was just popping up quickly. I checked, and the speed was 30 megabytes per second. That was the bandwidth in the student's room, 30 megabytes per second. At that particular time, my whole university campus was receiving 20 megabytes per second. I was amazed. So this is one of the problems we need to resolve. It's creating learning barriers in Africa, because internet is not very, very easy to get, and it is very expensive. Very expensive. I come to that. But this other map shows, and I got this from the ITU website. This other map shows the traffic. The traffic. You can see it in an article that Africa not so much connected to anybody. Very faint lines, but you can see Europe, Far East Asia, Far East Asia, North America, a bit of South America. They are connected. And this, I also got this sea cable map. When you see some of those sea cable maps going through Africa, probably the final destination is Dubai or other places, not Africa. So one day I was traveling to Singapore to attend a conference, and on that day, some idiot struck the sea cable on the east coast of Africa and disconnected Dar es Salaam. And at the airport, they couldn't issue boarding passes. They were written by hand. And I had to connect a flight from Dubai to Kuala Lumpur. I was going to Malaysia. And since I didn't have a second boarding pass, I had to go around until I was told that you have to go to the terminal, to the boarding gate. That's where they're going to issue you the other boarding pass. So you can see how the world can suddenly change when you cut one of those cables under the sea. Now, I wanted to summarize the internet, the data that we get regarding internet. And you can see that 67% of the world population is connected online. But also that internet connection or internet availability is linked to the country's development. In 2023, 90% of the people in high-income countries were using the internet. At the same time, only 27% of the population in low-income countries had access to internet. The cost of internet was also very high. In Europe and the Commonwealth of Independent States, the former Soviet Union, and the Americas, 87 to 91% of the population were using internet. And approximately 66 to 69% of the population of Arab and Asia Pacific regions were using internet. But the average usage of internet in Africa was about 37%. Worldwide, again, there is also a gender disparity, not so much. I think the gap is closing very fast. 70% of men were using internet compared to 65% of women. Mobile coverage networks, again, you can see that 5G speed, which was launched in 2019, had reached 40% of the world population by 2023. But that 95 of that population was in high-income countries, and middle-income countries were receiving only 4G. While, of course, most of us here, we are still on 3G and 2G. We are still low. And the penetration in the countries of Africa, I want to focus Africa now. We had very high penetration in Morocco, Botswana, and I think we can feel it. Here we are all connected, isn't it? We are all getting Wi-Fi very easily, high speed. So, 3, Mauritius, South Africa, Tunisia. What about lower countries like Nigeria? Nigeria is 35%, Tanzania 31%, Burundi 11%, Uganda 10%. I mean, I didn't list all the countries, but you can see that there is a big difference between some countries of Africa in terms of internet penetration. And the other table shows the cost, the average cost, monthly broadband cost in US dollar. And you can see in that table why the Commonwealth of Independent States has the cheapest internet. And North America, I'm surprised that North America had very high prices, but because they are also, the income is high, so for them, maybe it's not that much expensive. For us, it's really killing. It's really killing. The internet bill is very high. And bandwidths are also very low. I wanted to show you another, I don't know. Yes, okay, I show that table after this one. I want to show you how ICT has impacted education. Because as I said earlier, there has been a lot of changes in the community, in the society. Book printers are crying because people no longer read books. There's a program which we started at Open University, and the government was pushing it, and they insisted that we should provide books for the students. We say, okay, we're going to produce them, but they have to buy them. And we produced those books in 2018, and most of the books are not sold up to now. No students want to spend money buying books. The classrooms are running empty because some students are now going online. I recall one Tanzanian who lives in the United States. He was walking around and they saw an advert, campus for sale. So he went and inquired and he told me the campus is being sold because the students are afraid they have gone online. So he went there and he negotiated and bought one building. And he established an online school in that. Now he's running with more than 4,000 students across the globe. So that's the power of the internet. But also, students are learning faster because, as I said earlier, learning is no longer a function of time. You know, sometimes I really wonder, in most universities, apart from the universities in Southern Africa, because I worked in Namibia, I know how you operate. You charge fees according to the courses or the credits that the students are doing. But in most of Africa, they charge you yearly fees. They say you're going to pay so much per year. But I think we should follow the restaurant menu. When you go down to the restaurant and you order a cup of coffee, it doesn't matter how long you're going to sit there drinking the coffee. They charge you the cost of 1 cup of coffee. Not the time you drank the coffee. If it's a bottle of water, you pay for the water. If it's a dish of rice or whatever, you just pay for that. It doesn't matter how long you're going to sit there eating. But most of my country's universities, apart from my own university, other universities, they charge per year. So if you would have to repeat one subject and then you have to spend 1 year on campus, you pay for everything. You pay for the whole menu. Ridiculous, is it? But as I said earlier, AI is becoming a big challenge, particularly for most teachers and lecturers who don't want to change the way we assess. Similarly, competence-based education. We don't know how to assess competence. We only assess knowledge. And then we say we have a competence-based curriculum, but nobody knows how to assess competence. I'm an engineer. If I'm going to assess competence, it's either you get all or you get 0. If you are learning how to weld, you have to weld correctly, and you get 100%. And if you weld incorrectly, you make a small mistake, you get 0. Go back again. Nobody's going to sit in a train where the welder made some error. Or nobody's going to sit in a building where there is some error somewhere. This thing can fall on us. We are not assessing. In fact, I like the system that they operate in South Korea. South Korea. They have a very good system of assessing competence. One day I was looking at the way they grade their students, and I saw that to get an A+, you must score 99 to 100%. 99 to 100% is A+. And then 97 and 98 is A. And then 95 to 96 is A-. And D- is 70%. And that's the pass mark. The pass mark is 70%, is D-. I wondered, how come? One professor told me, we assess competence. We give competence 70%, and the rest, 30%, is from knowledge. Incredible, isn't it? So you must get all the competence, then you can add some knowledge about the competence. We don't know how to assess competence. And I would tell my staff the other day before I left, I say I'm leaving this university, but you always have restrictions on students. You say you shouldn't come with tablets, They shouldn't come with computers to the exam. They shouldn't come with the mobile phone. I want to see a time when we shall allow students to come with anything, whatever they need. Let them come with laptops, with the mobile phone, because when they are going to work, they will have this facility. So why don't we simulate their working environment and ask them questions that they can work, solve students critically, analytically, with all the tools they have in the world? And I recounted my time at university where we used to have open book examinations. We used to have open book examination. It was a 6-hour examination. You were allowed to bring to the examination room any book. And you were allowed to go and have your lunch, and leave the papers there, go and have your food, and come back. And on the way you could find anybody to ask whether they could be able to help you, it's fine. But I remember no one ever left the room. And people came with the trolleys of books to the exam, but they never opened the books. Nobody opened the books. Now I want to show you how internet bandwidth has actually developed at my university. In 1999, when we started having internet, we had 32 kilobytes per second, or 0.032 megabytes per second. Very slow at that time. But our university was seen as one of those that are very high in ICT and internet. By the time I became Vice Chancellor in 2015, we had already gone to around 170 megabytes per second. When I left, before I left, we are now at 1,300 megabytes per second. So it sounds fast, but I think we should be at 5,000 or 10,000 megabytes per second. But the cost of bandwidth is what is restricting us. But I noticed also one of the effects of the changing of mode of delivery to ICT-based was the completion time for a bachelor degree at my university. 2009, when I started taking this data, that is the year I was appointed DVC academic. And I was interested to know how many students will finish the bachelor degree in 3 years, and what is the average completion time of those people who are graduating. Only about 5.3%, 5.8 were finishing in 3 years. Only 5.8% of those who graduated had done the degree in 3 years. But the maximum completion time was 5.8 years, almost 6 years. That was the average for the entire graduating group. Now come down to 2020, when I last did the analysis, 2020, you can see that the average completion time was only 3.8 years, and 60% of all candidates had finished their degree in 3 years. So that's incredible in terms of completion time and ability of students to graduate. We also use ICT to improve our examination system. I'm not going to have to go through that, but briefly, that our examination system is leak-proof. No examination can leak, because we removed the examinations from the hands of the lecturer and asked the system to administer examinations. So every lecturer has set some questions, we put them in the bank. It's the computer that's going to compile the exam, and the exam is going to be sent to the examination center with a password, so the invigilator will receive but cannot open the exam. And half an hour before the examination is due to start, when everybody is seated in the examination room, we send the password to the examiner. They print the paper right in the examination room. And after it is done, then they send back the answer book using post, and we give the script to the lecturer to prepare the marking scheme. So there's no way the lecturer can leak the exam because of that particular. It's been working now for more than 8 years, so it's perfectly good. We are improving it day to day. Recently, we actually improved it. We started what we call OREX, Oral Examination System. First of all, we started, I can go back. We started what we call ODEX, On-Demand Examination System, which actually we got from Noun. We visited Noun sometime in 2008. We found that they had a system they are developing, and we worked on that. Now we established our own system of on-demand examination so that a student can ask for examination anytime they want. They don't have to wait for the examination season. And similarly, now we have on-demand graduation. When you finish all your credits, you can ask for your certificates and your transcripts and go away. These are second chance learners. You don't want them to finish their course in April and wait for the graduation that will come in November. So we have, the Vice Chancellor is constantly signing degree certificates for those whose results have been approved by Senate. Now, during COVID, we developed the oral examination system because now we are not able to bring students together to write exam. We have to examine them orally from wherever we were. And I show this picture here. How did we do it? We are using Zoom. There is one candidate there. There are two examiners, and there is one observer who is an academic staff to ensure that justice is being done to the student by the two examiners. So the system delivers the questions when the examiners are ready, and they decide among themselves who is going to ask which question online. They are not in the same place. Every examiner is at his own home or wherever they are. During COVID, people are working from home. And then they bring in the student. They will examine him. They are free to ask add-on questions, follow-up questions. And when they think the student has done well, they take him out, and then they discuss among themselves what grade is he getting. They agree on the grade. They bring the student back. They tell him we have passed, subject to approval by the various bodies, but be confident this exam you passed. Or if the student has failed, say, please go and prepare for a supplementary. You failed. So for me, that was quite a big feat, but it was a very slow and costly process when you have so many students to examine. Now, I'm going back to AI. How is AI affecting education? I'm not going to say much about it, but I show you this picture. That was in 2023, Harvard University started using an AI professor to teach students some courses. I'm sure now more courses are being taught by robots. Now remember, these robots are connected. They are connected to the internet, to the web. They can access information from anywhere in a very short time. They don't forget. They don't get tired. Now, I've been standing here maybe for half an hour or more. At my age, yeah, you can feel it. You're going to fail, you want to go back and rest. But these things, they can teach infinitely. That's something to ponder on. What does Bill Gates say? Bill Gates, he scared me. Bill Gates says that within 10 years, AI will replace many doctors and many teachers. Most of us here are teachers. Aren't you scared? Your job being at the hands of an AI robot. Fortunately, we cannot allow this to happen so quickly. We're going to slow it. We gonna slow it. We can't afford to lose our jobs, can we? Are we ready to go to the farm? But in the farm, we're going to find robots there also. They'll be everywhere. Somehow, AI has to be a subject of high priority. We better learn and understand it so that we can know how to cope with it. I want to talk about learners 25 years from now. The learners of 2050. First of all, we're going to have personalized AI tutors where students will just be learning with the help of personalized tutors. Tutors who know you personally. They know your weakness. They can assess you quickly and know where you are weak, and they teach you where you're missing. You see, nowadays, when you walk in a classroom, you teach everybody the same thing without knowing who already understood or who has not even understood. Who has already a firm background or who doesn't have a firm background. When I was in Rwanda, I was given to teach a subject of material technology to a class of mechanical engineering students. And since I was new, I didn't know what background they had in chemistry and physics to be able to understand material science. So the first day, before I taught, I gave them a test. And some of the students protested, "Why are you giving us a test before you have taught?" I said, "This is for my own use. I want to know what you know and what you don't know." And it really helped me to know that these students have a very weak background in mathematics, in physics, and in chemistry. So I have to withdraw, and I have to start somewhere lower to bring them up. What about immersive learning and with virtual reality? This is something that is really going to take over the world very soon. That we shall be able to conduct experiments in safe virtual labs. And those people who cry for animal rights, they don't want us to slaughter mice and other animals in the labs. We have no work because we won't slaughter any mice. We have virtual mice which are not living. We can see everything. We can dissect. My daughter said, the daughter that I spoke of at the beginning of my lecture, she's in third year of medical school. And in the first year, they used to spend hours and hours in a place they call cadaver. In cadaver, there are corpses, many corpses of people who are not known. Their bodies were never claimed. So now they are using them for learning. So they cut them. Today they may cut a hand. The other hand, they cut open the heart. With the other hand, every organ they want to learn, they're going to cut them. But with virtual labs, you won't need to do that. Again, skill-based learning will be more important than memorizing information. Why do we have to memorize? Why somebody asks you a question, say, how tall is Mount Kilimanjaro? And then you have to memorize and know how to it. This is an examination in geography. How long the River Nile? What use is it? What use is it? To know the length of the River Nile? Huh? To know the height of the highest mountain in the world? Why don't you just go on Google and get it? Huh? And I think this, for us in Africa, and please forgive me, my colleagues from Europe and the other part of the West, for us in Africa, we blame it to the colonial form of education, which was brought to us, and we are forced to memorize, and those who can memorize first will get A, and become they get hired by the colonial government to do their work. I worked in Namibia for 3 years, and I was involved in a program called MathStep, which was trying to upgrade the teachers in math and science. Because during the colonial time, math and science were not being taught to black teachers, but black students. And I was called to be a tutor of one of the mathematics classes. Being an engineer, of course, math is a very soft area. But after a week, I resigned. Why did I resign? I found a student. He had been given a very simple question: 1/3 plus 1/5. 1/3 plus 1/5, and he simply says 1/8. So I was wondering, how did he get 1/8? He says, I multiplied those on the top and I added those on the bottom. Now, how do I start to teach this student class 2 and class 3 arithmetics? 1/3 plus 1/5. So I told the supervisor of that group that please just forgive me. I'm not this level. I was not trained to teach this level. We're going to have global classrooms. You're going to have a classroom where you are teaching here, and some students are in Korea, some are in South Africa, others in Australia, others in New Zealand. They come at their own time, or they be there at the same time. It can be asynchronous or synchronous. So there are now AI tools for translating language. I don't have to learn English to be able to attend a class, because my Kiswahili will be translated into English automatically by AI. And I feel sorry for the translators, because soon they will all lose their jobs. Those who normally sit at the back, when you have multicultural conferences and people, multilingual, you have somebody translating into Portuguese, another one into English, another one into French, another one into Arabic. Now this is going to be done by AI. Those guys are going to lose their jobs. And they are very costly. If you have a conference and you ask them to come, their charges are very high. Fortunately, this Pan Commonwealth Conference is all in English, because you are all from Commonwealth, you all speak English, so there's no problem. But if it was another conference which involved people from Russia, from China, from everybody, you need translators. And that's where AI is going to play a very big role in the future. Will we cope? We have to leave that form of colonial education, which was focused on knowledge, and concentrate on skills. You know, Lord Macaulay in 1835, Lord Macaulay was a British member of Parliament in the 1830s. And he wrote, he said, I have traveled through the breadth and width of Africa. I have not seen a beggar, I have not seen a thief, and I have not seen anybody who is idle, unemployed. Everybody was busy with their lives, with their skills, with their work. If you are a carpenter, your son is going to be a carpenter. If you are a clay potter, your son is going to be a clay potter. If you are making math, everybody, if you are a builder, you pass on the skills from father to son, from mother to daughter. And there was no unemployment. Look at Africa now. 70 to 90% of our graduates stay unemployed. It's a big bomb waiting to explode. So we now need to focus and change that. We should not delay the promotion of learners and let them wait for a year. One member of parliament in Tanzania asked a question, who has done a research to come with a result say that for every grade of learning, you have to spend 1 year? Who has done that research? Up to now, there is no answer. Why do you have to wait for 1 year to move one grade to another? You prescribed, yes, primary school, 6 years or 7 years. And so the kids have to grow up the years. Isn't it? But I lived in the UK for 6 years. And occasionally I would hear about an 11-year-old who has graduated at Oxford with a Bachelor of Science in Physics. 11 years. Here in Africa, this will still be in grade 4. 2 years ago, I heard of a girl, again, I don't know whether in the UK or in the US, 16-year-old who got a PhD. PhD, 16-year-old. Here, you see be in junior secondary school. And the regulators will come up in arms. Yeah. Regulators will come up in arms. As I come to my conclusions, before I do my conclusion, I want to tell you another story. I know when you tell a story, people wake up. In 2018, one parent called me. He knows me personally. And he told me, he narrated to me a story. He went to the UK to do a PhD. And while he was in the UK, he brought his family with him. And his daughter was in the 3rd year of secondary education in Tanzania. So the girl was also going to accompany the parents in the UK. And so they took her to a secondary school. The secondary school headmaster asked about her age. She said, she's 16. They said, at 16, you must be in Form 6, not Form 3, not Form 4. So, here in the UK, you go by age. So they shifted her from grade 11 or whatever you call it, to high school, final year of high school. She was shocked, but she worked very hard, very hard, and at the end of the year, she passed very well her Form 6 examination results and was admitted to a university in the UK. She did her university degree. She finished. Her father was still struggling with the PhD. And she did a master's. By the time she was finishing master's, that's when her father was also finishing the PhD. And they all come back to Tanzania. Now, in Tanzania, the regulator for higher education requires any external award to be verified and compared with their local grades, local certificates. So she had to take her papers to the Tanzania Commission for Universities for accreditation. But when she got there, the boys who work in that directorate, they wanted her to present also her secondary education certificate, grade 12. She didn't have one because she never did the final examination. She had only the grade 14, which is the Form 6 exam, the A level. So they told her, look, if we don't have the O-level certificate, we cannot recognize your qualification. So they sent her home crying. So the father was calling me to assist and intervene. So I know the CEO of the Tanzania Commission for Universities, and I called him. I said, Professor, there is a case here. I narrated the whole story to him. And I told him, Professor, you know this kid, you should have given her an award instead of telling her to go away. Why? How could a Tanzanian student who has only done 3 years of secondary education and 1 year of A-level go to university and pass with high grades? You should commend her. Instead, you are punishing her. So he understood my point. And he actually called me afterwards. He told me to ask her to go and see him personally. And her awards were eventually recognized. That's what I was saying about rigidity over our regulators. So I can conclude now that we should agree we are still a dark continent. Last time somebody denied, say, no, we are not dark. I say, no, we are still dark. The facts show it. We need to change. We must also work hard on content, because most of the content we are consuming on the internet is foreign. Very little is local, original. We need to start developing our own content and flood it in the internet. This content should be relevant to our context. So that's important. That's most important. But also, whenever possible, we should continue to promote online education, because it reduces the costs and it increases access and improves the success. I didn't present success, but I need success, a bit of students to finish quickly their education. But I put everything in the hands of the government, because the government needs to take a leading role in ensuring there is right infrastructure in our institutions, while also they subsidize the cost of internet. I told my Minister of Education, I said, look, the Open University doesn't need many buildings. We don't need dormitories. We don't need many classrooms, because everybody's learning in their own space. But please, help us pay the internet bill. That is our infrastructure. And that is my cry up to now. I don't know about Botswana Open University and the other universities, UNISA and the others in the region. Noun. I've been to Noun several times. It's a very nice, upcoming Open University. I don't know whether the Vice Chancellor is here already, but I was looking to see him sometime if he comes. But look, we need really to push our governments to support us in the. I am happy to see Professor Sukon from Mauritius. He had been a Vice Chancellor of the Open University of. Now he's a minister. I'm sure you're going to do something so that you don't face the same music you are facing in Tanzania. Finally, I want to say that AI should be popularized from the early years of learning. We should start popularizing AI with the kindergarten students, primary school kids, secondary school kids. By the time they reach university, they'll have other things to worry about. And we should see that AI should be likened to the calculator in my day in the university. When a calculator was seen to be a miracle thing for computation, it's now even my daughter can use her mother's phone to calculate things at that early age. May God bless you. Thank you very much.